Great. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is George O'Neill, and I'm the chairman for the Thompson Inland Wetlands Commission. I'm calling the September 12th, 2023 meeting of the Inland Wetlands Commission to order at 7 p.m. We're operating under using Zoom, so we're going to have the following rules. I'll just touch on them. I think everyone knows what Zoom is, but it's being recorded. The session is being recorded for audio and visual content, and under the control of a Zoom coordinator. I guess is that you, Marla?
Nope, it's Amy.
Nope, Amy's on. Okay, the session is being recorded. So to ensure quality, the default rule for this meeting is that everyone will remain on mute. Commissioners and staff will generally remain on mute except when speaking or voting throughout the meeting. Applicants and members of the public should feel free to leave the video on or off. However, we will ask you to turn on your video when speaking. If the video is not available for you, that won't preclude any participation. And certainly you want to listen to the meeting. During the meeting, everyone is asked to state their name each and every time they speak. Please use the raise your hand feature to let me or the host of the meeting know that you have raised your hand to speak. Although depending on the number of people, it may be pretty obvious. Members of the public may only speak during the portion of the agenda established for citizens' comments on agenda items. There'll be two of those, one in the beginning of the meeting, one at the end, toward the end. Members of the public may only speak during this period and comment on agenda items. For individuals representing applicants, permittees, and violators are listed in the agenda and their representatives. If you are speaking at this meeting and have a document to submit to the commission which was not distributed in advance of the meeting with the rest of the document, you will need to hold it up to the camera so that we can see it. And obviously, once the meeting's over, please send a copy of the document in PDF format to the Inland Wetlands agent, which is wetlands@thompsonct.org. And Marla will include it with the permanent record of the commission. Remember, the public tries to communicate outside of the citizens' comments on agenda items portion of the meeting, or any person who creates audio video disruption. They may be manually ejected by the Zoom host at my request. So now it's time to call the roll. Commissioner Chapin.
Get my mute. Present.
Commissioner Obert.
Present.
Commissioner Morano. Not present at this time. Commissioner O'Neill, present. I will share my screen so that we can all follow the agenda. Make it a little bit easier, I think. I think I have the right screen. Let's see if it works. All right. I trust you can see my screen. There are no alternates. Action on minutes of the previous meeting, minutes of August 8th, 2023. Are there any revisions, corrections, or amendments?
And we accept them as presented.
Okay, I have a motion it's made to accept as presented. Do you have a second?
Do we need a motion? But if we do, I'll second it.
Okay, made and seconded. Any opposition? Hearing none, the meeting minutes from the previous meeting are accepted. Citizens' comments on agenda items. This is the opportunity for citizens to comment. I don't see any raised hands. Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. Old applications, WAA 23016, Jason Zuninsky, 61 Old Turnpike, Assessors Map 143, Block 17, Lot 232. Construct new single-family home with septic, driveway, and underground utilities in 100-foot upland review area, stamped received on 7/19/23, issued 8/16/23, legal notice published 9/1/23. Appeal period ends on 9/16/23, which is only a few days from now. Marla, do we have an update on this?
So just to let you know that I did a site walk before I issued the wetlands agent approval with Dan. And if you scroll down to page 11 of the Zoom documents, we ended up walking there is an old road. It says existing driveway, but they're going to upgrade it a little bit. But he has a beautiful house site. You can stand in front of his house on the top of the riverbank and look up the river towards, and you just see a little tiny piece of the bridge of 198. And then you can look south and all you see is river and woods. It's a beautiful site. And it's the only place where he could build a home on that site, given the location of the floodplain. So no, there's no action required by the commission. And I did include a copy of the agenda because this, I mean, a copy of the approval in the Zoom documents, because you recall this property had an NDDB hit list of several savanna, I think it was the savanna sparrow, the bobolink, and the wood turtle. Now, this site is not subject to the savanna sparrow or the bobolink because those are meadow creatures, meadow birds. But the wood turtle could be in this area. So not stopping him to be able to build because he's only putting a driveway in the area. There was some recommendations by the Natural Diversity Database. So I thought they were a little more onerous than what was needed for the construction of a single home. If this had been a larger development, it would have required more investigation. But the first condition I added, we have standard conditions on these permits, and I added a special condition number 1, and it says each day prior to the initiation of any work authorized herein, a search of the entire work area shall be performed to find and relocate any wood turtles found to a distance of at least 200 feet away from any portion of the work site. And that's in an effort to try to preserve and protect any of the wood turtles that might wander into the construction site and be harmed by the construction activities. But that's the only extra condition that I put on in this application.
Well, great. Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for our inland wetlands agent on this matter? Commissioner Obert?
The time period of construction versus the normal egg laying period for the species, are they going to overlap?
They've already started construction. So the Natural Diversity Database suggested that the wood turtles go into hibernation sometime around November. They tend to go into the banks of the river. And of course, we're getting close to that at this point in time. So if they're doing the majority of their construction, upgrading the driveway and initiating their foundation work, which they wanted to get started right away, they're only going to be overlapping by a month or two, and they aren't going to be in the egg laying portion of their breeding season.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Obert. Any other questions for the inland wetlands agent? Okay, hearing none, and this was an inland wetlands agent approval, I will move on to the next item. So, new applications, WA 23018, Gary Ross and Zerolagi Road, Assessors Map 141, Block 17, Lot 181R. Construct new single-family home stamped received on 8/14/23, and the application is under review. Where do we stand on this item?
So I didn't include the drawing on this. I'm still waiting for the Northeast District Department of Health's approval on this. It's a lot real close to the aquatic reservoir. I probably should have included a site drawing, but I don't think it's going to make a difference. It is a lot of record, and we did check the 100-year flood elevation and with respect to the new flood mapping, and it really doesn't change. And all the construction activities are located outside of the 100-year floodplain, regardless of whether it was the old floodplain or the new floodplain. So he didn't have to do any modification of his site design to address the new floodplain.
And I note that Commissioner Morano is that Commissioner Morano on the call? Did I see? Is that Fran or is that someone else?
Fran, you're muted.
I got it.
Is that Fran Morano?
That's
Yes.
Fran.
Okay, noted. For the record, at 7:09, Fran has joined the meeting, if not a few minutes earlier. Thank you. All right, sorry to interrupt, Marla. So as far as regards to the new application?
It's under review and it's on
Okay.
hold, and
All right.
it'll get reviewed by the next meeting. But the Northeast District Department of Health is very backed up on their approvals for new septic systems. So I'm not sure if it'll even be through by the time your next meeting is in October.
All right. Okay, thank you. On to the next item. New application WAA 23019er, Michael and Barbara Roach, 13 Center Street, Assessors Map 116, Block X, Lot N0, construct a 12-foot by 14-foot detached garage and 100-foot upland review area for Little Pond. Stamped received on 8/14/23, issued 8/22/23. Legal notice to be published on 9/1/23. Appeal period ends on 9/16/23. Do you have any additional comments with regard to this item, Marla?
So on page 15, you have the locus map. You recall Barbara Roach was at one time an alternate member on the Wetlands Commission.
Yeah.
And she's very sensitive to doing things the right way. I had told her that this could have potentially gone through as maintenance and enjoyment of residential home, but she wanted to get started. So she submitted her application, and I on the 14th of August, and I had it stamped to receive. Excuse me, she submitted it on the 22nd of August, and I approved it on the 22nd of August. And she had come in preliminarily to review the plans as to what they were going to do. So I've included her plan. If you go to page 18 of the Zoom documents, originally her property had a much larger, much wider bituminous driveway, but they had reworked it. So the proposed garage is actually going in what's an existing lawn area. And the access, the doors will face to the bituminous driveway. And you'll note that they're their distance, while they're within 100 feet of the little pond, they're on fairly flat ground, and they are located behind, and there's a lot of lawn between them and the lake. So there was no additional erosion and sediment controls asked for on this. So that's why I approved it.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions for Win the Wetlands agent on this matter? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. WAA 23020, Maximilian Candidus, 0 Sandam Road, Assessors Map 135, Block 22, Lot 17. New single-family home in Upland Review area, stamped received on 10/20/23, which is under review. Any comments on this?
Okay, other than I got Mr. Candidus's first name, I think I spelled it wrong. It's Maximilian. So I think well, in any case, on page 20 of the Zoom documents, you'll see a locus map. It really abuts the airline trail. It's a long, narrow lot on the border of Porter Plain Road and Sandam Road. And if you go to page, they have its Northeast District Department of Health approval for the septic system on page 25. And we have a report from Margaret Washburn regarding the delineation of wetlands. And so on page 27 is his site plan. And knowing that there's always been a lot of interest in the airline trail, this will border up against the airline trail. So, but he has no work in wetlands at all. And the wetlands have all been delineated. So I gave this application to Dan to try his hand at drafting a wetlands agent approval. And he has done that, and I will be reviewing it tomorrow.
Great. Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, moving on to the next application. WAA 23021, Matthew Said, 33 Beckler Road, Assessors Map 116, Block 24, Lot 26, concrete block retaining wall and associated backfill in 100-foot upland review area. Stamped received on 9/1/23. Legal notice to be published on 9/8/23. End of appeal period is 9/23/23.
Okay, so if you go to page 29 of the Zoom documents, you'll see the location of Matthew Sad's application. He had come in earlier and gotten an approval for, I believe it was a septic repair. But during the course of that work, he decided he wanted to put a block retaining wall. He's got a little erosion along the lake. So if you go down to page 31, we took the site plan from the septic replacement, and Ron DeRocher submitted revisions to that particular plan and added some notes. And you'll see on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, that's where he's going to install a concrete block wall, and then he will backfill it with a small amount of fill. So that he has identified the area of disturbance is what's in the yellow. I don't know if you can see it on your screen.
Yep,
The original. Okay, I don't see it on mine, but I can see it on my private personal computer. So any case, This was another one where the FEMA floodplain was changing. So currently, or previously, the old floodplain was identified along the watercourse's edge, but the new floodplain would go significantly into his property to the north, on the north side. So he submitted his application. He had come in advance, discussed it with me. We worked on how he was going to apply, what plans he could use. We pulled a set of the old plans that he'd already gotten approval for the septic system, and he added in the notes for this concrete block wall. There is a cross section that he shows on page 32 of the Zoom documents. And what he wants to use, that he's not going to be doing any work in the water. He's going to be, according to his plan, was to be 12 inches away from the edge of the water. He was going to dig down below to provide a stone base and then put in these concrete blocks that were 2 by 2 and 4 feet long, not a very large wall, and then backfill it so that he had a flat lawn. You will note in the approval that I drafted, which the application came in on September 1st and I approved it on September 1st, the first condition, it says, prior to the start of earth moving work, an erosion and sediment control consisting of either silt fence, wattle, or staked hay bale check dams shall be installed landward of the high water mark for Little Pond and waterward of the proposed retaining wall construction, and shall be maintained until the contributing drainage area is stabilized with vegetation. I added a second condition: no earth moving work shall occur closer than 1 foot from the high water line for Little Pond, except for the installation of the erosion and sediment control referenced above. So those are additional conditions that normally don't show up on other applications. And I think that will work well for that property. All the other properties around him all have retaining walls along the water's edge in one way, shape, or form, some of which may or may not have gotten approvals from the commission in the past.
All right, thank you very much. Commissioners, any questions for the Inland Wetlands agent on this matter? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. WAA 23022, Town of Thompson, 255 Buckley Hill Road, Assessors Map 83, Block 49, Lot 6. Construct town's new salt garage facility, portions of which are located in the 100-foot upland review area for Stout Brook and associated wetlands. Stamps received on 9/6/23 under review.
Okay, I'll speak first, and then I think Janet is here for the town to talk about what exactly the town's going to do. This is something that I have identified in the past was something that the town needed to have in a very important way. First of all, the town's existing salt storage facility has had some non-compliance issues because it hasn't had good control of the salt in the shed. Second, downstream from this site are several public water supply wells. And if you look at the drawing that you have now, it doesn't really show on the locust map where those wells are. They're located farther downstream, approximately it's going to be it's actually on Sunset Brook where those wells are. So it's very critical that the town get its control of the salt migration, or the stopping the salt migration on the property. So I strongly support the town getting approval for this. And with that, I'll let Janet explain the plan, and it starts on page 40 of the Zoom documents.
Hi, this is Janet Blanchett. My internet has come back. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Ms. Blanchett. Just complete your introduction and we'll be up and running.
All right. This is Janet Blanchett from J&D Civil Engineers, professional engineer representing the town of Thompson on this project. If you would like to look at the plans, I believe they start with the existing conditions plan on sheet 41 of your Zoom documents.
Okay, I think we have it.
So this plan shows the overall land that's owned by the town of Thompson. North is actually upside down on this sheet because the perspective is from standing on Buckley Hill Road. I think that's the way most people are familiar with viewing the property, from the perspective of the road. And You can
So north
see,
is upside down, yeah.
yes. So you can see pretty much in the middle of the sheet is an existing salt storage facility. Yes, exactly. And that's a very small building. It cannot hold the amount of salt and sand that the town needs in winter storms. And so, of course, there's always some, overflow onto the ground. The new facility is going to be significantly larger. And I think if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Chairman, advancing to sheet number 43, that shows at a different scale. So this is a blown up scale of part of the land that the town owns. And you can see the existing salt storage shed is at the front of the where the proposed shed is going to be. So that will be demolished and a much larger salt storage facility will be put in behind it. The area is pretty flat, so there's really minimal earthwork. There's hardly any cuts and fills necessary just to put in the building. So there's 3 doors at the front of it. So basically, big 18-wheelers full of materials will enter the front or the low bottom side and deposit all the material at the bottom of the building for mixing together of salt and sand. And then when there's a large storm event, the DPW trucks and plows will kind of do like a clockwise circulation through the front of the building. They go in the left side and then out the right side. And while they're inside is how they'll be loaded by a loader. So completely undercover. So this is going to take the whole operation and put it inside off the ground. And so for all the reasons that Marla said, this is really, a necessary infrastructure improvement for the town, and it will be environmentally friendly. Because the grading is so minimal, we don't really need that much site grading. It's just a gentle slope away from the building. The exception for drainage is the roof. This is a tall structure. The roof is anywhere between like 40 and 50 feet high. So you can't just let the runoff sheet off the roof. It would be, just like a torrent. It would cause erosion at the bottom. It would splash up against the building. So it definitely has to be connected with the gutter system. And the runoff from the roof is pretty much considered clean. It's not sediment laden. And so it doesn't really require pre-treatment. So what we're going to do is pipe that to an infiltration basin that is within the 100-foot upland review area on the right side of the screen, parallel to the wetlands. And I guess I should have said right at the beginning of my presentation that on the right side of this sheet is the wetlands that were delineated by the soil scientists, and then further to the right is the Stout Brook. So this infiltration basin is really this soil here is really well drained. It's Hinkley sands. The DPW director refers to it as the sugar sand, and it does really take a lot of water. So the bottom of the basin will be full of a foot of crushed stone, and when a runoff comes off the roof, it'll have 10 feet wide, 2 feet deep by 80 feet long to infiltrate. Should it overflow in a large storm event, then the whole outer edge of that basin, 80 feet long, will be like a crushed stone strip that it can just filter through the vegetation. And the vegetation in that area is very robust and thick. It's so it's not going to be easily eroded if this overflows because of the nature of the vegetation. I believe right now where this basin is shown, the Public Works Department is storing some plastic pipe, so it will result in a little bit of loss of yard storage space, but this was the solution that the building committee preferred.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No, I think that's it. I'm available for questions if anybody has any questions.
Great. Commissioners, Commissioner Ober, do you have a question?
If we approve it tonight, it starts right away. They want to have this done before winter? What?
I don't believe the construction will not be done before winter. Probably it'll go out to bid this winter and be constructed next year so that it can be ready for the next season. Unless I'm mistaken, which if Amy is on the line, she may be able to correct me, but this is a large project with an architect working with the building committee, and I'm not 100% sure of their schedule.
You're absolutely correct, Janet. This is Amy St. Ange. We hope to get it out to bid sometime later fall, early winter would be our hope, so that we can get on somebody's construction schedule for the spring, summer construction season.
Thank
So
you.
George, I would like to make a couple of comments.
Sure, go ahead.
Janet had informed me that the building, that you'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen, there is a cut bank where there's a lot of grading that would be done. That isn't, according to Janet, the building inspector, the building committee felt that that was too expensive to remove that material, and that they were not planning to do it at this stage. Is that correct, Janet?
That's pretty much correct. What they're going to do is have it in the contract as a bid alternate. So if the budget comes in, less expensive, then they could have money to cut back that bank, which would have the effect of basically increasing the storage area and actually making the space for the Public Works Department, more user friendly, because they'll be able to go around the facility more easily. One thing that when I discussed this project with Marla, that we both recognize is that this work is outside the 100-foot upland review area. So if it is selected as a bid alternate, then it wouldn't come back to the Wetlands Commission.
So the only thing that I noted when I was looking at this is that this is more than a 15-foot rise in elevation. Is this then this is a 2-to-1 slope? So normally the erosion and sediment control guidelines state that either you need a cross slope bench in it, or you have to have an engineer certify that the embankment will remain stable or have some kind of slope stabilization because of the longness and the steepness of the slope. That's something that the Planning and Zoning Commission, if this goes before them, should take into consideration, but it's not a consideration for the Wetlands Commission. And I only make that comment as my understanding of the erosion and sediment control guidelines.
The slope is proposed to have a complete erosion control blanket if that alternate is accepted.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, the last thing that I would comment on is one of the things that I noticed in looking at this property is that from Buckley Hill Road, there is a water course that originates out of the embankment of Buckley Hill Road on the Wetherell property, and it travels down through into this property and disappears about the time that it reaches this property. So if you go to the locust, the first page on page 40, you won't be able to see it. I don't think we have an aerial of this property, but it travels down from near the corner of Route 200 and Buckley Hill Road. It's the second lot in from the intersection and heads down towards the Public Works garage. That water typically dissipates into the ground and does not reach the Public Works garage. The water course appears and then disappears because the soils are so sandy. But what it does do when the ground is frozen, the groundwater can't get into the soil, and therefore it floods over into the Public Works property. I have suggested to the Public Works director at some point in time, they may want to consider creating a ponded area or a berm to block that flow and then pipe it underneath the ground to Stout Brook so that there can be no hydration of the soils. If the soils currently have any contamination, you wouldn't want them to continue sending that contamination towards the brook. And that would be one way of keeping the Public Works area dry. But that's a significant change in any plans, and it sounds like the town doesn't have a lot of money at this time to do such work, but that would be something that I think that the building committee should look into, which we
Great,
need piping the clean water through. But this is a wetlands agent approval. I believe you submitted it as a wetlands agent approval, not as an individual permit.
That's correct.
So this can be one, if the commission has no objection, can be one that can be issued a wetlands agent approval without further ado.
Sure. Commissioners, any comments or objections to the recommendation of the agent and the engineer for the town and on the agent's approval? Okay, I hear none. Well, it sounds like you're set to go on agent approval. So I guess you need to refine that or formalize it if you haven't already, and move forward. Great. Well, thank you
very much.
Ms. Blanchette, and thank you, Amy, for your additional information. Moving on to the next item. If I can get to it. Did I skip one?
No, you got to go to page 69.
Oh, 69. Okay, there's a lot of pages to this thing. That's right. All right. Moving on, we have applications received after agenda was published. DEC 23023, Town of Thompson, Jazersky Lane, Assessors Map 116, Block 10, no lot. Correction, that'd be Block X, no lot number. Installation of wing wall, road repair, and cleaning of cross culvert. Okay, what do we have here?
So this is being presented by the Public Works Department under Conservation of Soil, Water, Fish, or Wildlife. If you recall, last month I brought it to your attention. I showed you some photographs of the site. So this is the formal request for a non-regulated use by not altering the natural indigenous character of the wetlands and watercourses. And the activity, the description that's given is that Jazersky Road pavement is being undermined due to soil erosion at the inlet head wall to the cross culvert draining Little Pond, causing the road pavement to break up. To address this, the Public Works Department proposes to install a precast concrete block wing wall that is backfilled with gravel and stone so that stormwater runoff from the road is discharged safely over the stone and gravel without erosion. Do this, a small area immediately west of the head wall on the road right-of-way will be excavated to provide a flat surface for the concrete block. The concrete will be placed to abut to the existing head wall and then backfilled with gravel and stone to provide a stable surface for stormwater runoff to reach Little Pond. This work would take no more than one work day. Now, at some time after this work is done, the pavement to the road will be repaired, and if warranted, the cross culvert will be cleaned of accumulated sediments during a time of low flow using best management practices to minimize adverse environmental impacts. So the information that I have from the area residents, I did not look at inside the culvert myself, but that the culvert has lost some of its capacity because of sediment that has washed from the road edge into the culvert area. And so that warrants being cleaned at some point in time. And rather than having to come back for a separate approval to do that, we included it in this application request for a ruling. And you'll see the locus map on page 73 of the Zoom documents is where that cross culvert exists. And as you know, there's been issues with Little Pond and the water surface elevations having problems due to beavers and obstructions to the flow lines. So this would be a help by reducing the amount of sediment that can reach the cross culvert. And on page 75 is a plan view that shows where the block would be located in relation to the head wall. You're looking down from the sky and you see where the road pavement is and you see where the gravel and the crushed stone would be placed, so that any water coming down would have to go around the head wall, down towards the block, and then around the block, and then into the lake. On page 76 is a cross section, so you get an idea as to how the block would fit into the landscape. And you can see the amount of erosion that's already occurred behind the existing head wall that would have to be filled with crushed stone and gravel. And this was submitted by the Public Works Director. So
Right, so-
you would have to render a decision as to whether or not this is acceptable as a non-regulated use under your regulations for section 4.2.
Okay, so commissioners, comment as to the acceptability within or beyond the regulated activity.
Just a point of
Commissioner Obert?
clarification. I think it's obvious, but I want to be sure. This is on the infeed side coming underneath Jezersky Road, out
Yes.
of Little Pond. Thank you.
Yes, it's the inlet to the cross culvert that outlets Little Pond.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other commissioners have comments or questions? I do have a comment or observation. It appears to me that we've got some subject matter experts that have taken a good look at this and seem to be a prudent action from where we stand, or at least from based on the information presented and the application as well as the documentation. It strikes me that it would be consistent with that approval that initially recommended, that I don't see any great additional action needed or further investigation needed. So my suggestion would be that we, advance the process.
You would need a vote to approve the
Yes.
request.
I make a motion to approve the request from the Town of Thompson Department of Public Works for the purpose of installing improvements at the culvert at Jezersky Lane at 116 block X, no lot number, where the culvert has been a historic problem, and the wing wall will be new and repair.
Okay, motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Chapin, I'll second it.
Okay, I have a motion made and seconded to approve the Town of Thompson application for Jezersky Lane, Assessors Map 116, Block 10, Block X rather, no lot number, installation of a wing wall road repair and cleaning of cross culvert. Made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, no further discussion. We'll go to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Hearing no opposition, the application is approved. Moving on to the next. I'm sorry,
George,
go ahead.
I would like to intercede at this point because an application was received yesterday afternoon after I posted the Zoom documents, and it was an individual inland wetlands application, so it's statutorily to be received today. And I will attempt to screen share if that's okay with you.
If you have it, fine. I did download it and I'll bring it up if you can't. So go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So you've got it. Oh,
Well,
I don't know how it. Yeah. How do I screen share now? Screen
okay,
share.
so I'll unshare it. All right, I'm
Mhm.
unsharing. Now you go to your Zoom box and there's a green share button. You hit the share button. You find it on your window. It's if it's an open on your desktop, and select it, and it should show up. There it is. It looks like you're on track. Good.
Okay, so this came in yesterday afternoon, and the application is listed as to construct a ballasted PV solar array on 4.98 acres of land to be required. Land disturbance will be required for all the proposed construction. 1,742 square feet of man-made wetlands will be filled for the construction of the PV solar array. And underneath it says to whom it contain. This comes from Eastwood Thompson 49 LLC, to whom it may concern, as managing member of Eastwood Thompson 49 LLC and 962 Riverside Drive LLC. This letter shall serve as permission for Provost and Rivero Inc. to act as my agent and sign applications on my behalf for the submissions to the Thompson Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission and the Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission for properties owned by these two entities. If there are any questions related to this, I can be contacted, and he gives his contact information. So there is you have all been sent this via email. The commissioners have been sent it via email because I couldn't post it, but I wanted you to have it. And since it is a individual permit, you can only receive it. And what I'm going to, can you see the site plan?
Yes. Just want to
Okay.
expand. You want to hit your, if you put your cursor in the center and make it larger, it makes it easier. Scroll down. Well, you can do it there too. Yeah.
Okay, so David Held is in the Zoom meeting, and I'm going to suggest that, can you screen share, David? Are you there, David?
Yeah, yes, as long as you stop the screen
Stop
share.
sharing.
You have to
I
release
think-
it.
I think it would be better if you put up
There you go.
your copy and did it from there, okay?
Sure. Can everybody see this?
Let's see application. There you go. Yeah, we see the site plan.
Okay, for the record, David Held, I'm a professional engineer and land surveyor with Provost and Rivero. And I apologize for the late submission, but I'm glad we got in. There was a fair amount of work to do to get it in, so here we are. Some of the commission members may have seen this. This site was approved for the installation of a solar array back in, I believe, 2015 or 2016. For a lot of different reasons, that project never moved forward. Most notably because it has taken from that time up until late last year for the applicant to actually acquire the property. It had formerly been owned by, I guess it was some kind of a shell corporation or something that was part of Putnam Bank, and it was kind of a legal disaster, but they finally acquired title to this, along with the 152-acre property around North Rosendale Pond. It was a single transaction, but they acquired both of these properties at the same time. They also own 962 Riverside Drive, which is what's referred to as the old shirt factory building across from the river mill on Riverside Drive. And they had started doing some rehab work on that, but now that they own the property to the rear, they're actually gearing up to start the completion of that rehab work, which is the main reason why we want to try and do this solar project right now, to basically provide renewable energy to serve that site and feed whatever excess is generated into the local power grid. So this property is about 54 acres in size. As Marla mentioned, we're clearing just under 5 acres, including all our access driveways and utility corridors for the construction of the project. You'll notice that the area where the array is in the northwest corner of the property is the flattest topography on the site. So that is the primary reason why it was sited there. There also will be some additional development that will be going on this property, or proposed to go on there. And I anticipate that you'll see a follow-up application for that secondary project probably next month. But I'm going to go to the detailed site plan here. And you'll notice here, this shows the majority of the array in the northwest corner of the property. And you'll notice here, there's 4 little wetland pockets. They're delineated as the F series, the G series, the H series, and I believe the I series wetlands. Right here, right here, right here, and right here. As mentioned in the application, the total wetland disturbance for all 4 of those is just over 1,700 square feet. Those are basically excavated borrow pits. This property used to be owned by the river mill, and for whatever reason, they chose this area to excavate some fill material for a project. There are various isolated dumping areas where there were, I guess, slag and other things like that from the furnaces in the mill that were historically placed on this property. I don't believe any of those are in the area where this project is sited, but this is, it's essentially redevelopment of the property, portions of which were very much associated with the river mill and its industrial uses over the years, including these excavated pits. We do have Joe Thoreau going out there. He's scheduled to be out there this week to verify that the wetland delineation he completed in 2015 is still accurate. accurate. If necessary, we can go out and stake exactly where some of his flags were if he needs to do that. And also to take a close look at these 4 wetland pockets. Obviously, it's not the proper season to make a final determination on this, but just to verify that they don't have the characteristics typical of a vernal pool. From the work that we had done 7 years ago, we're quite confident that they don't. There's no natural soil substrate in the bottom of them. There's no significant vegetation there that would support native vernal pool species. So we're quite confident that we're not dealing with anything like that. They're simply man-made depressions that don't have any way to drain out. So they form hydric soils in the bottom. And we're basically proposing to fill those back up to grade in order to create a relatively flat area to install the panels. They will be ballasted, so they're basically going to have a large plastic tub, for lack of a better word, that can be filled with either soil or concrete, and the posts for the solar panel racking system would be stuck in there, and the tub filled with that soil or concrete material provides the weight so that the whole system is stable. It's not going to blow around in the wind or anything of that nature. So we're not going to have any significant ground disturbance for the installation of the array. The only real ground disturbance would be stumping the area after it's cleared, and then just installation of whatever electrical conduits are required underground. And another thing I do want to point out, and I will go up to the overall plan again. You'll notice the array up here. You'll notice our access road from Riverside Drive coming down like this. That alignment for the access road was selected for a number of reasons. We're closely matching the existing grades there, so there's almost no cut and fill for the access road, but it also coincides with the other development I was talking about, which you'll hopefully see next month. And you'll notice a little cleared corridor here leading from the array up to the property line here and then down through an access easement to Riverside Drive. To accommodate the other project, which you'll see, we've chosen to run the majority of the electrical conduit for the interconnection outside of the limits of disturbance of that project, so it can be installed, and most of it will never have to be disturbed again if that other project does move forward. So that's the reason you're seeing kind of 2 corridors running back through there. If we look again at the detailed site plan, you'll see the wetland edges here. We're clearing up to maybe within 15 feet of the wetlands in some places, and that's simply to provide a shade-free area for the array. The actual development of the array itself is at least 50 feet away from any wetland boundaries. But you do have relatively tall trees there, so we want to minimize the shading on the array. So you're basically going to have a grass area which may be mowed once or twice a year between the edge of the panels and the edge of the clearing. If we go to the second site plan here, you can see the easterly portion of the array, and with the exception of filling in those 4 little wetland pockets, we have no other direct impact. It's simply clearing and establishing vegetation in the upland review area. Again, minimal ground disturbance because we are using a ballasted system to support the solar array. None of the access road, and I believe maybe a minimal corner of the right here of that interconnection conduit are within the regulated area, but the majority of our access road is outside of a regulated area. And again, Joe Thoreau is going out to verify the wetland boundaries. I expect to have something from him early next week verifying that and whatever insight he can provide for potential vernal pool habitat in those 4 wetlands. But if any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to try and address them.
Thank you, Mr. Held. Commissioners, I see Commissioner Obert, you have a question?
Yes, wish I could get through a subject without asking things, but I understood that you have discovered about 1,700 square feet of man-made retention areas that now have become wetlands. You want to fill those in, and if I heard you, there's no other digging, no other work to be done on the site? How are you going to anchor these panels?
So again, this is going to be a ballasted system. So the way that works is they have basically it's a plastic tub, high density polyethylene tub. That's put in place. They're put in the rows running east-west so that the panels are facing north-south, and they're either filled with soil or they're filled with concrete, and the posts for the actual racks, which hold the solar panels, stick out of that, and the weight of that soil or concrete sitting on top of the ground in the tub anchors the solar panels in place. And obviously it's sized structurally to withstand whatever wind loads you would see in this part of the country.
My only question then, I'm going to want more information about what the finished ballast, this bucket or tank that you want to put. Is there going to be a gap where we're going to be collecting rainwater and mosquito harborage, or is it going to be right up to the top? I need that information for, we're going to have to look at this again next month, right, Marla?
Oh, you're only receiving it today?
Yeah.
So you'll have 65 days from today to either hold a public hearing or render a decision, unless the applicant grants extensions. So since it hasn't been vetted by any staff at this point in time, there's a lot of questions that I have. For example, I don't see where the extent of land disturbance is. I would like to know what the extent of actual land disturbance is, and what erosion and sediment controls are being used during construction to address that. I don't see any details on the anchors in the last sheet, which is where you would normally have your details produced. David, you had said something to the effect of that there had been a permit issued for this site. Do you have that permit number? You thought it was about 2015? Because I'm not aware of one, and I was working here then.
Well, it may not have had to go through wetlands. It may have been completely outside of the upland review area. It was on a different part of the property.
Okay,
I know it was approved through planning, and I know it was approved through planning and zoning. I thought a small part of it might have been an upland review area, but I could be mistaken.
No, there was nothing that came through the Wetlands Commission. So about that time, I was asked to walk the site of a proposed solar farm, photovoltaic setup. And the site that I was shown had a lot of stones, had a lot of outcrops, and would have needed to be significantly regraded in order to give it flat enough and without obstructions of the stones that were there. I do recall seeing some of these pits, walking down and looking at these areas. So I would recommend that the Wetlands Commission schedule a site walk for this before next meeting, just to get an understanding of what they're looking at. And in the meantime, I'll help go over it with Dan tomorrow to see what kinds of additional information we might want, that the commission might need to render an informed decision. But I do think there's going to need to be some additional details on this. And I haven't looked at the sequence of construction to see how much that makes sense. And until I know what the area of disturbance actually is, of land disturbance, regardless of whether it's just digging the holes in the ground, we need to identify that on the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you, Marla, for that, and Charlie. Thank you for your comments. Mr. Held, thank you very much for giving us an overview of your the applicant and the application and the site. And I guess some of us look forward to taking a site walk and get a better understanding of the scope and range and all those issues. And I'm sure we'll have another discussion at a later date. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to the next. If you would just release your, there you go. Let me try to pull mine up. Green 2, let me go here. All right. And, right, so make sure I'm on the right. Permit extensions and changes, there are none, so we're on to violations. Notice of violation, VIOL 23013, Wojcik, Studika,
You
157.
missed one.
I'm sorry,
You missed,
I missed
you
one.
missed
Oops, there I
mark
am.
down.
Too many clicks here.
Mhm.
Okay, this is violation VIOL 21036, permit IWA 20022, Mark Bear, 1227 Thompson Road, Assessor's Map 116, Block 24, Lot 10. Grades not as authorized in modified plan approved by the Commission in February 9th, 2021. And do we have a status report?
Yes, so a couple of weeks ago, Mr. Bear stopped by the office. I really didn't recognize him. He'd lost a lot of weight. He said he'd had a second heart attack. Hasn't had much work done on the property. I don't know whether or not it's due to finances. He has other property up for sale nearby, and I have reminded him that there is a memo in the building that I submitted to the building office to withhold the issuance of any certificate of approval until the Wetlands Commission receives an as-built drawing of the site, that it's acceptable to them, to the Wetlands Commission. And so he's well aware of what those concerns are. And the realtor that was representing the property had already also had notified her of the outstanding violations. So unless he changes realtors, it should be under the same, anybody looking to purchase that property will know that there are problems. To date, the septic system is not installed. The walls, the retaining walls have not been finished. The house has not been finished. And there's been no action on it for a little over a month, any activity on it. So right now it's just sitting and have to keep an eye on it.
All right. Thank you very much for the update. Commissioners, any questions for Marla regarding this outstanding violation? All right. Hearing none.
Marla, it's
I'm sorry, go
Commissioner
ahead.
Chapin.
Yeah.
I don't know that, I don't know. I know you had informed the listing agent. I would hope that that's going to be conveyed. I don't see anything. I hadn't checked anything to see if there was any notes that would let a buyer's agent, for example, be aware of that before visiting the property. So hopefully that statement is true.
Yeah, so I do have correspondence that was sent to the realtor.
Yep.
So,
I know you did. I'm just saying.
but the buyer's,
Right.
the buyer's realtor wouldn't know unless they came to the building office and looked at the file.
Well,
And they
or what should happen, in my opinion, is the listing agent should be disclosing that.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
So I don't know how evident that is, though. That's something that was.
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner Chapin. Any other questions for Marla on this matter? All right. Hearing none, moving on to the next item. We have notice of violation VIOL 23013, Wojcik, Sutka, 1574 Riverside Drive, Assessor's Map 55, Block 65, Lot 14. Grading work exceeding scope of work authorized by permit IWA 21028, issued on 5/22/23. Do we have a status report on this?
Okay, well, I have not yet contacted the Dudley, sent them the Dudley Conservation Commission because they're the ones that regulate wetlands in Massachusetts there. But I did get a report from Daniel Blanchette that there was a complaint that the cross culvert on Route 12 was blocked and overtopped in one of the recent rainstorms. And so I sent an email to Norm Miller, the DOT District 2 drainage engineer, and informed him and sent him a copy of the drawings and informed him that it was our understanding that there is a cross culvert there that the Department of Transportation owns and that they should be looking at it and looking at cleaning it. It may be a stone culvert, an old stone culvert that may be failing. I had not gotten any response from the Department of Transportation regarding the email that I sent to them. In the meantime, there has been still storage of materials in the upland review area, and the basin that was built is functioning. So at this juncture, I'm kind of throw this over to Dan to follow up on. That's the status. I should have sent something up to Dudley a while ago, at least informing them of the situation. But Mr. Mr. Saduka should also be contacting them. And Daniel should be contacting Dudley and finding out how they stand regarding changing the piping system.
All right.
That
Thank you for the update. Any other questions of our inland wetlands agent on this matter? I drove by there. I did notice that there a lot of activity. So thank you for that update. On to the next item, we have permit violations and pending enforcement actions. Permit WAA 22033 Spicer Gas Inc. 299, formerly 0 Reardon Road, Assessors Map 65, Block 101, Lot 6. Letter sent on failing erosion and sediment controls and need for stormwater basin construction schedule.
So if you go to page 81, I had gone and Dan and I had both gone and looked at the site, which prompted the original letter where they gave us a 4 to 6 week time that they would expect to have the basin in place. But when I went out on the 11th of September, I noticed that there was a berm between the basin and the parking or the driveway area, and the plans don't show any berm there. So I contacted Daniel Blanchette, and he said that he went out there and took a look, and he said, yeah, there was a difference, that he was going to go out there and instruct his client to make some adjustments. And I replied back to him. They replied very promptly. And I said, given that there's already been correspondence on the construction of the stormwater basin, please be advised that I'll be recommending the commission require an as-built drawing within 30 days following the completion of the basin's construction to verify it was built according to design. And I said, this email will be posted in the Zoom documents for tomorrow night's meeting. A copy of the email to Jaw and Holstein he's notified of the same. So right now, this is an action in process. The engineer is aware that the plans are not, the site is not according to plan, and that an as-built drawing, once it is completed, should be submitted. And that would be a future action by the commission making that request.
Okay, I see we have
Janet Blanchette.
Janet Blanchette, do you want to be recognized, or do you have something to comment?
Is it appropriate that I add some new information to this item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman?
You're representing the
Spicer Gas.
The individual, the entity being in violation?
That's correct.
Okay, so yeah, I would say it is. Yes, please do.
And this, just today, my colleague Daniel went out to the site with the contractor and with the owner, and this is all very new. So at 3 p.m. He did send a memo to update the commission in Marla. It's not that long. Should I read it for your information?
Please do. Thank you.
It says, good afternoon, Marla. I wanted to give you an update on the stormwater basin for Spicer Gas over on Reardon Road. I was just on site with Bill and the contractor, Nick from Provost Trucking. We directed Nick to remove the berm that was in between the driveway and the basin. Now the basin connects directly with the steep slope coming off of the driveway, is much larger, and will intercept runoff from the driveway. They also improved the outlet weir to be more well-defined and have more riprap on the downstream side. The basin on site today does not appear as deep as the approved design. However, this basin was designed assuming that 30% of the site would be paved. There are no impervious surfaces on the site at the moment. Everything is crushed stone or woods and lawn. Therefore, the basin that exists today is substantially over-designed for the current condition of the site. If the owners decide to pave the driveway or construct phase 2 with a building and parking lot, then I recommend the basin be inspected and possibly redesigned and improved. But the basin is certainly large enough for the site at the moment. I believe the only thing left is to put down some grass seed on the areas with exposed soil, such as the drainage soil along the north. The grass seed should be planted in the near future, ideally when the forecast is calling for some rain in a few days. And once the turf is established, the silt fence will be removed. And he has a meeting in Plainfield this evening, so I'm basically taking his spot.
Thank you very much for the update. Marla, any comment, or I guess you'll have to review it in further detail.
Well, the original approval included the construction of the building, included the paving. I don't know if in the future, since no additional permit is required to do the additional construction or to do the paving, I don't know how the commission would know coming back that it was included. So given the fact that they don't know if they're going to pave it, they don't even know if they're going to build phase 2, which is the building. And if they built the building, then I would guess that they probably at that time would do the paving if they were going to do paving. So I'll take it under advisement and talk to Dan about it, and then he will direct you as to what he comes up with as to the final course of action.
Okay.
And this may be acceptable, leaving it the way it is.
Great. Thank you, Marla. Thank you, Ms. Blanchett, for your additional information for the commission.
You're welcome.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions or comments on this matter, or? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move on to the next item. We have other business. Thompson flood damage prevention ordinance amendments adopted at town meeting.
So I checked today, and the amendments have not been posted in the Code of Ordinance yet. When I posted the Zoom documents, that was yesterday, they weren't there, and they're still not there today. So what is in the Code of Ordinance, I don't know what the timetable is for the installation of the VAD ordinance and the amended stormwater Thompson's flood damage prevention ordinance amendments. I would suggest that the commission have Dan check with the town clerk to find out when that posting will be for the new language or the revised language.
Oh, thank you for that recommendation. Certainly, I know historically, if we look down to ordinances and passage of ordinances and implementation, we find sometimes they inadvertently get overlooked. So good point. I guess have to have a to-do list or follow-up diary for this item. All right, then. Let's move on to the next item. Anticipated staff changes and vote on to authorize Dan Mello to act.
Okay, so at this juncture, I have not yet entered into a contract, a consulting contract. Today, I got some revisions from Amy, and I have to review those. And hopefully by tomorrow, I will come to a decision as to whether or not I'm prepared to sign the contract as she has offered it. We've had a couple of going back and forth. And so it's coming down to the wire. However, regardless of whatever happens tomorrow, you need to appoint or authorize Dan to act as the wetlands agent, whether I'm there or not, because I won't be there after tomorrow, at least for 3 weeks anyways. But I would, the first that I could ever return to the town hall for whatever reason, whether it's under as a consulting contract or still as agent, would be after the Columbus Day weekend.
Okay. And I know you court. I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
So I would recommend that a motion be made to appoint Dan Mello as the duly authorized wetlands agent, or as a duly authorized wetlands agent for the Inland Wetlands Commission in accordance with your regulations.
Sure. Thank you. So do I have a motion to delegate to Dan Mello the authority to act as the wetlands agent for the Thompson Inland Wetlands Commission and perform actions in accordance with its regulations, sections 11 and 14 of those regulations? Do I have a motion to do that? Commissioner Obert, do I see you making a motion?
Excuse me, I'll make that motion that we a vote to authorize Dan Mallow as the duly authorized inland wetlands agent, and that
I'll
he be.
second it.
And I, Fran, seconded it. Any discussion? So I would add that this is in anticipation, right? This is a proactive measure. You know, things can change tomorrow and who knows what happens. But so in the event that anticipating that, obviously Marla mentioned potential changes as well as absence for 3 weeks, that we've pre-authorized Dan to do so. And you know, of course he has to accept that, but at least we've as a commission have made that action. Okay, so that's what we're doing. And with that being said,
But Dan is on board and he can tell you whether he's willing to be your agent.
well, I don't want to put him on the spot, Dan, but you can be welcome to comment if you'd like.
I'm very willing.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate that affirmative statement. And I know you already served in the capacity as a conservation agent as well, so and you've experience with this. So anyway, so we've had any further discussion? And if not, we can move to a vote. Hearing none, let's move to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, the motion to delegate to Dan Mallow the authority to act as wetlands agent for Thompson Inland Wetlands Commission and perform actions in accordance with its regulations, including sections 11 and 14 of those regulations, has been voted on and approved. So let the record reflect that. Thank you very much. Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you. I hope to hit the ground running. Marla, I can't be replaced, but she's been helpful for me to pick up where hopefully she left off.
Big shoes. Yeah, it's always a challenge there. Successor, I guess, is what we always call them. Success, succeed. All right. Excellent. All right. We've got that taken care of. And here's the next item, other business, roundup for roadside maintenance.
So you recall, I think it was last month or it was in July, there was a lot of concern by several commission members regarding the use of Roundup that was occurring. And I had been asked to look into it. And so I had made a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen in middle of August. And those recommendations are on page 85. And I've already also talked to the Public Works Director. He said next year he was hoping to have the listing of the prospective sites needing roadside vegetation control identified. He's still hitting the ground, getting things organized as a new Public Works Director. He hasn't been there much more than a year. I don't even think he's been there a year yet. And so I just provide this to you so that you can understand that there has been a recommendation put out there. Whether or not the Board of Selectmen choose to do a protocol or policy on it, and whether or not the Public Works Director adopts a policy, that will be up to the powers that be. But this was my recommendation, just for your information, since several of you had concerns regarding wetlands.
Thank you for that. Commissioners, any questions for Marla on this point? Commissioner Obert?
Well, I was waiting for Diane Chapin to say something because I know she's also concerned. I've seen some of the sites where Roundup or an herbicide has been sprayed around along guardrails. They appear to be the older style wooden posts rather than the new galvanized ones. I don't know if that, I mean, that's a small sample size. But any alternative is going to be very costly or labor intensive, even if we do it with volunteers. I understand why they have to do it. I just wish there was some other way. I do know of one other way where a potato farmer in Rhode Island was using a flamethrower to burn weeds off of his potatoes so he wouldn't have to have herbicides or pesticides on his organic potatoes. But I don't know whether that would work or not.
Okay.
It's an issue, though.
Any other comments?
It's Commissioner
Chapin?
Chapin. Marla, I'd just like to thank you for your efforts. You've already answered the question about whether or not the Board of Selectmen and the Public Works will actually pay any heed to this or not. I find it very disturbing that this went on all over Thompson without any prior knowledge to people, and particularly along the wetlands. So thank you for your efforts.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Marla. All right, moving on to the next item. Citizens' comments on agenda items.
Valerie's got her hand up.
I see Ms. Clark. Identify yourself and comment.
Valerie Clark, Ulm Road. First, I guess I'll take them in reverse order. Marla, thank you very much for your work on the Roundup recommendations. I think it's interesting about the idea of burning the weeds. That's a great idea. I would love to explore that. I am absolutely opposed to the use of Roundup, particularly it was absolutely ineffective on the side streets and was oversprayed in the wetlands areas. So thank you for that. And then I just would like to say it's a bittersweet day because I'm going to miss having Marla available. However, I'm very pleased that Dan is available. So thank you both. That's all.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Clark. Any other citizens' comments? Okay, hearing none, let's move on to the next item. Budget and Wetlands Agent Report. Budget.
Budget, that's me. Okay, Commissioner Chapin, the budget for July 1st through 8/31, we have an available budget of 24,282.13, and we have expended 13.2% of the budget.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions for the, do we need a vote on, do we have to vote on the accepting the budget? No, we don't.
No.
Any questions? No questions? Well, that's great. We've got a few bucks left to go. We have ways to go yet. Wetlands Agent Report.
Okay, so this past month, I've been walking Dan Malo through the current office procedures to assist him in transitioning into the wetlands agent position. I've made no progress on the pre-1990 file destruction. By the way, the contract that I originally had drafted was to include the pre-1990 file destruction as part of the hourly rate under that contract. That contract was a two-phase contract. One would be a lump sum for delivering to you draft revisions to red line and black line for the regulations, as well as new application forms and a summary of changes. Along with that was also a records disposal for the pre-1990 file destruction. There's not a lot of it left, but it was, the administration decided that that was not an essential activity that needed to be covered under the contract, and that was completed. And so I am not arguing on that, but no progress has been made. There's still a box of the pre-1990 files. And I know that Fran Morano, who's been on the commission for many, many years, has been concerned about losing information, particularly detailed wetlands delineations that may exist in old files. And so one of the focuses is to preserve that in some way, shape, or form if it doesn't exist anywhere else in the town files. That is, to transfer that information to the building office files or to create a scan and hold on to that scan. Because sometimes the delineations that were given for inland wetlands permits were never filed on the land records because they didn't have to be. And whether or not they got filed in the building office files, just making sure that those were there. So before I end up leaving town employ, I will go over with Dan some of those issues. And if I have to, I may choose to help him out on a voluntary basis to help finish off that work. Because I think it's too important to let it hang. All right, for inspections and follow-up actions, 23 Lapierre Road, you recall that was a building, a garage that was built in the Upland Review area where an after-the-fact building permit application came in. And I went out and took a look at it and found that it had already been built. And I've discussed with Dan the options for dealing with this issue, and we'll leave it up to him as to the next course of action. The building, because I have not signed off on the building permit has not been issued. So But the assessor has been notified, so he knows that the building is on the tax rolls, but there has been no building permit issued, nor would any be signed off until a wetlands agent approval was issued. Got a complaint 23-04. This is at 6 and 8 Hill Road. A complaint from the owners of 8 Hill Road was received that fill had been placed on a driveway at 6 Hill Road owned by James Quayle, and the subsequent flooding of the basement of 8 Hill Road, which property is owned by Melissa and Jason Giesick, who I believe are brother and sister. 6 and 8 Hill Road share a common driveway. On August 23rd of this year, Dan and I inspected the properties and found that stone fill had been placed on the 6 Hill Road driveway within 100 feet of wetlands delineated for 8 Hill Road, as shown on the site plan approved under Inland Wetlands Permit 020302. At the time, and by the way, that delineation shows up nowhere else on any other drawings. It's only on the plans that the Wetlands Commission has in its files. At the time of the inspection, we saw no standing water, but there was evidence of past standing water, as evidenced by leaf staining. On August 28th, I spoke to Mr. Quayle and informed him of the situation. He reported that while he had applied for a building permit to construct the home on the property, his plan was to do that in several years' time, at which time he planned to install a cross culvert on the driveway. I suggested he contact his engineer at J&D Civil Engineers to develop an appropriate application drawing for the installation of the cross culvert, and that this will need to be done sooner rather than later. This complaint needs a follow-up letter, perhaps a notice of violation, to Mr. Quayle, providing him with 30 days to submit a wetlands agent approval application for the upgrading of the driveway and the installation of a cross culvert. This will need to be handled by Dan Malo. Complaint 23-05, the filling near Reardon Road. After receiving 2 anonymous letters for filling near 50 Reardon Road, I did a drive-by last week and found recent filling activities across the street from 50 Reardon Road on property owned by St. Joseph's Catholic Society. Since one of the letters stated the work was done by Ron DeRocher's construction company, I spoke to Mr. DeRocher's. He informed me that this site was the subject of past action by the Inland Wetlands Agency. I believe that would have been the Conservation Commission. I found a permit in the file 020302. Well, that can't be the same as the 060 Hill. I must have got the wrong number. Well, anyways, there is a permit for that property, which contained wetlands delineation just north of the fill site. And I determined that the recent filling, was done within 100 feet of these delineated wetlands. This matter will need to be followed up by Dan Malo. 481 West Thompson Road, at the request of Brad Bartell, on August 24th of this year, I met with him at 481 West Thompson Road to review his proposal to fill a depression near the rear of the building on the site and determine that there were no regulated areas in the proposed fill area, nor within 100 feet of the proposed fill area. And then I reviewed 7 building permit applications this month, and I didn't have anything miscellaneous to report, and all of the payments and encumbrances were for legal notices. And that's my wetlands agent report. Oh, by the way, the cost of legal notices has dropped again. And so when I look at the fee structure, I'm going to have to find out how they're charging for legal notices, because they're dropping by half the amount that we were being charged for in the past.
Great.
And I don't know why. Maybe they're calculating it differently. Maybe I don't know. Stonebridge Press got bought out by Salmon Press. And so Salmon Press is now running the legals, even though their subsidiary is Stonebridge, which runs Thompson Villager.
Maybe that's AI wet work. Who knows, right? Keep
Maybe.
the price down. All right. Thank you. Any questions for Marla regarding her report? All right. Hearing none, let's move on to the next item. Correspondence, signing of Mylars, comments by commissioners. So is Is this potentially your last,
Yeah, I have a
meeting?
comment, but I'm not a commissioner, but if you don't mind, I would like to say just a few words. It's been really good to be working with all of you. I mean, I can tell you all care about your town in a big way. And I tried to do the best for you. And I'm not going away completely. The contract that I'm working on with Amy would be to provide you with a draft of regulations. So the contract allows me to come into the town hall to work on that draft. So I will see Dan at some points in time. I will be able to answer some questions that he may have, or, I won't be doing drafting of documents and that kind of thing, but I can help at least help him get through the minefield of all the things that happen. And then once the document, I get it finished, which is supposed to be delivered no later than January 2nd, that'll be the next fiscal year for me, but not fiscal year for the town, taxes, by the way. So I will then have time, hourly rate, to meet with you, to have special meetings with you, to go over those regulations in detail and take your comments and incorporate your requested changes, and answer your questions, so that you can ultimately bring it to public review and public hearing and hopefully get adopted prior to the end of this current fiscal year, which would be June 30th of 2024. So I'm not going away. I'm just not going to be there in the same capacity, maybe not as frequently either.
Thank you,
But
Marla.
I'll
That's
be
great.
around.
Commissioner Obert, I detect you have a question or comment?
Well, not really, but
Okay, well, we'll move on.
okay, move on. Yeah. Thanks, Mark.
Commissioner Morano, I see you're unmuted. Do you have a comment?
I'm just grateful that Marla's been able to handle all that she's been able to do in the time that she was with us.
It's been a pleasure working with you too, Fran.
Commissioner Chapin?
Yes, thank you, Marla, for everything. I mean, I never had any doubt at any point that that following your lead or looking to your advice would steer me or the town in the wrong direction. So thank you very much. That is a rare trait these days, and it's much appreciated.
You're
We're
welcome.
gonna miss you.
My pleasure. I'll be around. I'll bother you sometime, maybe if I need to sell my property.
Okay, deal.
Well, I certainly want to thank Marla for all her hard work over the past, 7 years, it feels like, I think, for me.
It's been 12.
And 12 years? Yeah, has it been that long? Can't be that long. But 5, for me, it's been like 7 or 6 or 7. There's one term and a turn, another half a turn. And I didn't really understand the gravity and scope of what I was getting into. Certainly, I thought it was important. So, with your guidance and your technical expertise, it's been important, I think, to help us make informed decisions. I think it's the commission is, although there's a technical dimension to it, a large part of what our commissioners have to do is to exercise executive skills. Do we have the information? Do we have the necessary information? Do we have enough support to substantiate a decision, and what's the right decision, or what's the supportable decision? So I think you've been great in that area, providing that facts, specific instances, and to substantiate what we're doing. And further, so that's important. I think as any technical subject matter expert, it's really critical to have that. All too often, people say, well, the commission made the decision. Well, the commission made the decision based on the facts presented and the inquiry that was available to us. And we couldn't have done that without your hard work and diligence, and which is far beyond those hours. And plus your depth of knowledge at coming to this position. You've got a huge amount of human capital that you're able to supply to the town. So Dan's going to have his hands full going forward, but I know that Dan also has a lot of experience, and I think we're in a good position I'm not concerned that we can't move forward. We'll all get familiar with the new folks and new approaches perhaps, and maybe we'll go off in different directions. But for that, I want to extend my hearty thanks on myself and certainly on behalf of the commission, the town of Thompson. I know that if Amy St. Ange were here, she'd be expressing her thanks, and hopefully she'll do that at a later date. I know they're busy counting ballots or something, whatever. So with that being said, I think it's enough. Thank you so much. And I will entertain an adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I have a second. Charlie seconded it. A motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned at 8:30 p.m. on September 12th, 2023. Thank you very much, everyone. Now I have to remember how to turn this thing off.
See you later, alligators.
Have a good one.
Recording.
For a while,
Stop
crocodile.
recording. You sure we want to stop recording? Yes. Okay. That's it.